Hi, Tom Spring here with SC Media. We're at DEF CON 2024, and I'm here with HiddenLayer talking about their latest research on AI and how it can be manipulated in malicious ways when it comes to video. I'm joined by two researchers, Ryan and Kaz, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves. We're going to dive right into the research, and they can explain what it is that they found.
Thanks for having us, Tom.
Yeah, sure.
My name is Ryan Tracey, and I'm a principal researcher at HiddenLayer.
Okay, great, Kaz.
Hi, thank you for having us as well. I'm Kasimir. I'm a principal security researcher over at HiddenLayer as well.
Okay, so I keep wanting to call this talk something that it's not. What is the name of the session that you will be presenting later this week?
AI will be watching you.
AI will be watching you. AI will be watching you. So super interesting research. It explores how AI is being used in consumer-level security cameras and how adversaries can trick those cameras into seeing a human being as a dog or something else. But I'm going to let these guys explain it a little bit better than I can. So please break it down for me.
Yeah, so I'll go ahead and get started. So what we were able to do was we were able to find a camera, a security camera called Wyze that had an on-edge device AI, which meant that there was an actual AI model running on the device rather than in the cloud. So what happened was anytime there was any motion detected in the camera would send the image to the AI, and then it would be able to detect whether it's a person, not a person, and then send an alert. And do you want to take us further?
Sure. Yeah, so what we did was we started to look at how Wyze was actually using the AI models and how they were being loaded. And what we ended up having to do is, through our research in the camera, we actually found a vulnerability in the camera, which allowed us to hack the camera and get root access to it. And it gave us the level access we needed to begin conducting research on how the model was being used and actually how it worked.
So again, the vulnerability is a 0-day, and I don't want to get too lost in the vulnerability because I think what your research is trying to bear out is the inherent issues within AI in the application of video. But in this case, we're talking not theoretical, we are talking about production products that you were able to manipulate to create basically false alarms, or I should say no alarm at all, when you might want an alarm. And the scenarios that you've painted are the porch pirates, where you're trying to protect your packages on your porch. And somebody, let's talk about a scenario where this could actually play out.
Yeah. So while our attack does work in the physical realm, it is still more of a lab scenario, so you wouldn't be able to use it necessarily in the real world to actually attack a house. However, what we can do is, if Ryan wants to show the patch real quick, Ryan could potentially walk up to a camera holding this image, and if he has the angle just right, he would actually appear as a dog rather than a human, which means that he could walk up, steal a package, and then walk away. But again, he has to hold it up just right, and that might not always be practical in the real world.
Okay, well, that's really, really interesting. I mean, where your research is headed, and what I think you're trying to sort of introduce to the DEF CON community is what? I mean, that these are models that need further exploration. Can you talk a little bit about where this research is starting and where you'd like it to go in terms of looking for these types of malicious scenarios?
Sure. So in the beginning, we were looking more into just like how models are being used on devices themselves. So as like processors are getting faster and faster and cheaper, you're seeing more consumer electronics and devices actually embed AI into the device itself rather than talking to the cloud. So through this research, we basically took apart the camera and did all sorts of fun things, like we had to remove the chip, pull the firmware, find vulnerabilities to actually get access to the camera, to actually get to the point where we can actually see how the model's being used and interface with that. Okay. So it's kind of like opening the box on like conducting attacks and research on like the models that are being used on the devices themselves.
So, and again, and I think we've seen this kind of irrational exuberance towards these kinds of technologies, like the joke about the internet-enabled toaster or the internet-enabled toothbrush. As AI becomes more prevalent in these types of consumer products, never mind cars and business, what is the cautionary tale that's being told here?
Yeah, so I mean, first we want to say that it is actually useful to have these AI on device. It means that you're not sending data to some server. It's actually all running locally. You're potentially have more privacy, and they are useful, so lowering detections, that's great. And as with any emergent technology, there are issues, and people are working through these issues. I mean, we're doing research. This is why we're doing this research. And there are ways to protect it, and that's what we're working for.
Well, I want to back up just a second. I mean, you've mentioned it a couple times. This idea that the AI is running locally on the endpoint as opposed to the cloud. Why is that an important data point in the research that you're doing with this device and other devices?
Yeah, so with an on-device AI, especially with something like a security camera or other IoT devices, they don't have as much computing power as a server might have, which means that the server is going to have a bit more of a robust model, and that means that you're not going to be able to do the attacks in necessarily the same way. So while it does allow faster inference times with more privacy, the model might be able to be tricked a bit more, and Ryan can actually talk about that a bit more as well.
Yeah, so in the case of Wyze, they actually have like a free kind of detection system and then like a paid one. So these newer cameras, like the free one relies on like the on-device model, whereas they have an option too where it will talk to the cloud. So rather than what we targeted was rather than like when the camera sees something and it goes to the cloud and says like, hey, what did I just see? It's actually relying on like the local model to make that determination.
So, can you take me down that spooky, scary road where right now, again, this is very theoretical. I don't really want to, go down the FUD road too far. But I mean, but clearly, this research is a warning about what could happen in the future when you think about these types of spoofing or tricking of AI. When you guys were doing this research and you realized that you were able to spoof or fake out the AI in these models, where did your brain go in terms of like what's next and where does this go? And if nobody's paying attention, where does this cautionary tale take us?
Yeah, so we are not going down too much the FUD route just because a lot of these attacks, as you can see, I mean, if Ryan holds up that image, if you're just walking up to a house holding up that image, somebody's going to notice. So a lot of these attacks are still in a realm where they can be stopped just with not just AI, but actual human intelligence there. So we are in a good spot right now where we can actually do the research and stop all of this before it becomes integrated everywhere and can't be stopped.
So when you bring this research to the DEF CON community, what's your hope in terms of the takeaway from the crowd and the research community?
Yeah, so we are providing anybody who's coming to the DEF CON talk and reading our blog, we're providing a full analysis of everything that we did, how to reverse proprietary models, how to reverse engineer firmware. Ryan has a great section about just how to extract the chips, all of that. And we're hoping that other people do this research as well, because that way we can really protect the community.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you so much for breaking down a very complex topic in very simple terms. I'm sure we're not doing it justice right here. I really look forward to the session and learning more about how you guys did what you did. But thank you so much for your time, and I hope you have a great rest of your week here at DEF CON.
Thanks for having us.